Hello there. Welcome into a Tuesday edition of the show. So glad to have you, whether listening on 740 KVOR, Extra Sports 1300, or the streaming apps for those two radio stations where, given recent events, when it comes to our on-air signal, just know that you can get uninterrupted, crystal clear streaming audio of this or any one of your favorite shows on either of these two fine radio stations, and that those apps, whether they're the KVOR or Extra Sports 1300 apps, are free to download, free to use, and are sponsored by Diversus Health, mental health and well-being for all. It will be a veritable cornucopia of sports topics coming your way over the course of the program, and I would greatly appreciate your thoughts at 719-247-1313. You could call or text into the show, and this show is always better when you are a big part of it. So let's proceed, shall we? You know, part of my goal on a daily basis, part of my job, and part of the reason why you tune in is perhaps you didn't have a chance to watch the game last night, whatever it might be. So you tune in to Sports Talk Radio to get everything you need to know about that game. Well, I'll do you one better today. I will step aside and I will cede my time here to start the show, and I will bring you every important thing that went on in the Avalanche Red Wings game last night. So sit back and take it all in. If you did not watch the Avs and the Red Wings or listen to it on Extra Sports 1300, don't worry. Here's everything you need to know. Put together by me, by myself. I edited this myself, just so you know. Here we go.
Eighth McKinnon tied up behind the cage. Backhander, save made by Gibson. And the rebound will come straight out. Devontae's got a piece of it, but now it's Lucas Raymond, a 2-on-1. Passes it backdoor, and the Red Wings score.
And that's it. That's everything you need to know. 33 seconds into the game, some dude named Casper scores a goal from the Detroit Red Wings, and that was it. Because for the first time in nearly a calendar year, almost to the day, February 4th, 2025, the last time the Colorado Avalanche were held without a goal in a hockey game. And it happened last night. 2-0 ended up being the final score. So I guess I really built myself up there and I didn't bring you the second goal. But really, you don't need it. You don't need it. That was the extent of last night's action. So now you don't feel like you missed out on anything. So it is clear now, and you don't have the full picture on Saturday, because after Saturday's game, also against the Detroit Red Wings, could go one of two ways. Either the Avs are back, the Avs are right. Nathan McKinnon scored 2 goals in that game. He was once again a tour de force, which he hadn't been for about the last half a dozen games. Avs blow out Detroit in Motor City, and it goes one of two ways. Either the Avs get right, close out the first half of the season before the Olympic break strong, leave you with some warm and fuzzy feelings about what's to come after Italy, or they do exactly what they did last night and revert back to what has been the trend for them over the past 3 weeks, as they are now 5-9 in their last 14 games. The reason why I chose that time frame was that was every game after and including when they lost Gabriel Landeskog. When Gabriel Landeskog lost an edge and fell into the Panthers' goal, everything went bad after that. And Gabriel Landeskog's absence, I've noted, has been, I think, a big reason why the Avs have struggled. You know, they might be peeking ahead. 8 players are getting ready in just a couple of days to head to Italy for some of the biggest hockey games of their lives. This team has done so much work to make themselves the class of the NHL. They got still, even after last night, quite a bit of breathing room in the Central Division and the Western Conference for that matter. They've done good. Okay, but there's a little, what did you and I have when we were in high school? I believe they called it senioritis. Right? Or maybe it's just not even when you're a senior. Maybe it's just at what my kids continue to experience, which is the last day of school or the last few days. I feel for my kids' teachers because they probably get nothing out of them. They got a big break coming up, excited for it. They put in the work, got good grades, and now they are just useless for 3 weeks leading up to summer. It's kind of the Avs right now. And having somebody, a peer of theirs, to kind of get them back focused like, hey, we got to close this out. I think they're missing that. It's not to say that they're devoid of leadership without Gabriel Landeskog, but it's hard not to look at before Gabe got hurt and after Gabe got hurt and go, there's something here. So Saturday was not this get right game. The Avalanche now back to what we expect them to be. It was a brief respite from what the reality has been with this hockey team for the better part of a month. Now, in the more micro, why did they lose that particular game? If you recall, the Todd McClellan style of play that he has brought to Detroit from LA is one of the more infuriating systems to play against. And there's a little bit of respect in there in my words, because Tom McClellan for a long time has been a very good coach. Okay, but the way the systems that he puts in place, and now this rebuild in Detroit is starting to really bear some fruit here. Detroit's a good hockey team. Now that he has all the personnel he needs, he can fully implement what he did in LA. Which is basically, I'm going to put all 5 of my skaters in the neutral zone. And we are just going to sit there and make it impossible for you to get into the offensive end. And when we get our stick on the puck, we're just going to dump it back. That's all it was last night from Detroit. And that's what it was for years with LA when Tom McClellan was the head coach. We'll clog up the neutral zone. We'll get sticks on pucks, and we'll just keep dumping it. Go back and get it. Nope, not good enough. Go back and get it. It's if I'm an Avs player, I hate going against a Tom McClellan system. And again, respect. But at the same time, it is not the most aesthetically pleasing brand of hockey. And when you play the way that Tom McClellan's teams play, it is paramount that you get the early lead. The first goal means everything. And if you don't believe me, look at the last two games. Avs score first, Detroit never scores, and the Avs win going away. Last night, 33 seconds in, Red Wings score, and Avs have a heck of a time the entirety of the night trying to do anything. I believe they only had like 21 shots on goal. And it's probably, if we want to delve deeper on the Detroit part of this or the Todd McLellan part of this, it's probably also part of the reason why McLellan maybe never didn't really taste as much victory in his time in LA, because when you are so dependent on getting that first goal, if it doesn't happen and things can go so wrong for your team after that, it's a tough way to live. And now, credit to Detroit, more often than not, it works. But when the herd gets thinned out a bit and you're playing against the best teams in the NHL, you can't always bank on getting that first goal. And that's where the teams that have fallen short, what's kind of happened to them. But that's the last two Avs games. Avs get the first goal, no problem whatsoever with Detroit. They don't get the first goal, and they got a big problem with Detroit. So it was a frustrating game towards the end of an incredibly frustrating stretch of hockey if you're an Avalanche fan. Now, one guy that's not going to show as much frustration as you and I would be Jared Bednar. Here's him explaining the loss.
We weren't at our best, but I think they competed hard. They defended hard. We made some mistakes here and there, and we had to grind for our chances tonight, big time, right? And so there wasn't a lot of them. I didn't think either team had a lot of chances, but it was, it was tough sledding out there tonight. So I got to give them credit. They checked really hard tonight.
And Jared Bednar is one of the best coaches in the game. The fact that he is not on John Cooper's staff for Italy is stupefying. And we talk about it every year, how Jared Bednar, why is he in consideration for the Jack Adams? He's absolutely one of the best coaches in the league. And you can have faith that he will get this figured out, because the Avalanche, he has helped build this franchise from the rubble that they were left in when he took over, and helped build them into a Stanley Cup champion. And that's why I keep stressing that let's see what happens after Italy. Okay, Avs are going to Landeskog skated the other day, wasn't available last night, may play tomorrow night against San Jose. No official word on that, just kind of a gut feel that he might be there. Marty Necas was out last night. Jared Bednar said both of them will be able to compete in the Olympics, which means, barring something unforeseen, that both of them would be available and ready to rock when the NHL season resumes. They'll be healthier. They already got Taves back. They'll be healthier. They won't have that, or the light at the end of the tunnel, if you will be the Stanley Cup playoffs. It won't be the Olympics. And I would expect you get a more locked in, focused, higher performing Avalanche team. I do expect that. And Jared Bednar being able to push the right buttons is part of that reason. But this has been a really rough stretch. But here's the thing I'll say about Jared Bednar. When things are going well, the way he is, cool, right? Cool as the other side of the pillow, right? When things are going bad, it adds to your frustration if you're an Avalanche fan. Because you're like, get mad. Call out the team. You want a little a little Michael Malone in Jared Bednar. It's not who he is, but every once in a while you would like to see a more animated Jared Bednar. And that's as animated as he got all last night. Right? Not calling out the players. And he's not afraid to be critical. But it's a very calming tone from Jared Bednar. Like, it'll be okay. And again, you should have confidence that it will be. But this is where, as a fan, you want the coach to kind of feel your pain a little bit and go, hey, we got a couple games left before the Olympic break. Can they at least like end on a high note here? You thought that's what Saturday was going to bring forth. Same team, couple nights later at Ball Arena. Come on, why would they have any problems with Detroit? And then they got San Jose coming up. Much improved team, but Avs are way better than them. A chance to go out winning 2 of their last 3, which is still possible, but performing very well to close out this part of the season strong and make you eagerly await their return after the Olympic break all the more. Right now, they just look like a team that needs this break, even though they're still playing hockey. Right? They're still competing, still playing, but from the NHL season, this Avs team looks like they need a break. And the only break that you got as an Avs fan was that Saturday game, because overall, not been great lately. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on the Avs, both last night and overall. Again, 5-9 after and including the Florida game where Gabriel Landeskog got hurt. Is that the biggest problem that the Avs have right now? No number 92. Take your thoughts on that. Coming up next. So Davis Webb is now the OC for the Denver Broncos, and a lot of people, yours truly included, campaigning for him to get play calling duties. But there's kind of a bigger question here. Why is everybody so high on Davis Webb? And I think that tells the story of a larger trend going on in the NFL right now. That is coming up next on 740 KVOR and Extra Sports 1300. Nothing says I love you this Valentine's Day like jewelry, especially jewelry you didn't have to pay for. When a $299 Vermeil Pave lab-grown diamond heart pendant. Don't worry, it's really good, is why I'm not a jewelry expert either, but it's from the fine folks at Louisa Graff, who are the best at what they do. So you know. It'll kill. It'll be a great gift. And if you want to enter to win it, you can by going to extrasports1300.com or kvor.com, whichever you prefer. Contest will end on Sunday, so sooner rather than later may be the best way to go about it. And I hate doing this kind of thing because it detracts from the show and everything, but we are aware, and I mentioned at the top of the broadcast that I know our on-air signal is having some issues. As everything that I have found is that if you listen on the websites or apps, it's all good. But we apologize. Our engineers are the best, and they are trying to get to the bottom of it. So in the meantime, we sincerely apologize for the inconvenience. And it's not just, my pregnant pauses that I have become somewhat famous for. No, it's our signal dropping out. So bear with us. We'll get to the bottom of it. I assure you. So with that, Davis Webb, now the offensive coordinator of the Denver Broncos, and already people like me are saying give him play calling duties. This guy, now you may have known him as a quarterback in the NFL. You may have heard of Davis Webb, but he is a rising star and a fast rising star in the NFL ranks. Just 2 years ago, he was brought on by Sean Payton to be his QB coach. Then last year, he had the dual role of being the QB coach and passing game coordinator. And now he's the offensive coordinator. Whether he gets play calling duties or not, that's a meteoric rise. So, we tend to move at warp speed in the world of sports media, and it's already should Davis Webb have play calling duties. And I caught myself last night. I'm like, I don't even know that some people know who this guy is. Like, he just got here, and now he's the offensive coordinator, and people are asking Sean Payton to give up a pretty big responsibility, something that Sean Payton has excelled at for going on 2 decades, to this guy who just got here. So why Davis Webb? Why is he so special? Well, I would say that Davis Webb is indicative of a larger trend going on right now in the NFL. 10 years ago, the average median age for an NFL head coach was 53 years old. It is now down to 48. That's a significant drop in just 10 years. Now, losing a Belichick, not to pick on him, but Belichick, Carroll as well, helps that number out, but 2 does not completely sway it. Right? That is a significant trend toward, and I'm talking about head coaches. Okay, I know Davis Webb has now just been elevated to offensive coordinator, but we're seeing a youth movement going on in the last 10 years in the National Football League. More so than we get in Major League Baseball, more so than the NHL, and more so than the NBA. The NFL is quickly becoming no country for old men. Why? because the NFL is probably more than those other sports, more rapidly evolving. Right? The innovation that is going on in the NFL on a year-to-year basis. You know, Sean Payton talked about Davis Webb a couple of years ago and talked about, and this is going to sound like, I don't want to make Sean Payton sound like a fuddy-duddy, but like he was talking about how Davis Webb put everything in like Adobe Acrobat and he didn't know how to get into it. Like that's kind of the humorous side of what's going on in the NFL, but it's the idea that these younger coaches are coming in and they're more on the cutting edge for a sport that just feels like it's constantly on that cutting edge. Right? And just think of the offensive side, right? I think the offensive side is where you really are seeing this happen. Defensive side, less so. Right? How offenses have evolved and how they look more like college, and now the RPO stuff that's become widely prevalent. Like the offenses in the NFL especially, but the NFL in general is continuing to innovate, pushing the envelope, new all the time. And generally, the people who get the newer, who pick up the newer faster, who are more amenable to the newer are younger people. Right? And that holds true in a lot of different areas of our life, areas of industry, right? But there's also another aspect. So it's the fact that Davis Webb is young. He's on the cutting edge. He's picking up on the new things that are happening constantly and being able to relay it in a way. And that leads into the second part of this. Communication. More and more professional sports, because the idea that there is this boss-employee relationship, it's becoming blurred. It's not so much that anymore. It's more colleagues, manager, that type of thing. But it's more of a relationship business in professional sports. And you think of the age of professional athletes, who is better to communicate with them than someone who is closer to their age? So it's innovation, it's communication, it's organization, and you could all put this under the Sean McVay effect. Okay, when Sean McVay was hired by the LA Rams to be their head coach, it was a watershed moment for the NFL that started them down this path. That teams are now deciding whether it's head coach, whether it's offensive coordinator, whatever it might be, we would rather be a year or two early on a guy and let him grow into it than be a year or two too late. Think about the number of teams that could have had Sean McVay but thought he wasn't ready, thought he was too young, and how they're kicking themselves today because they don't have Sean McVay. Now teams, that copycat league mentality that goes on in the NFL, now that it's worth the risk to quickly elevate a young coach that shows some promise, which Davis Webb has. Before Sean McVay took over with the LA Rams, only 6% of the head coaching jobs in the NFL were held by somebody with a 3 as the first digit in their age. It's now more than a third of coaches who are in their 30s. And that's just head coaches. Again, that's where the data is a little bit more available. That's where people have studied it. But it goes down throughout the ranks. So is there something objectively unique about Davis Webb at the risk of downplaying him? Not really. Well, we don't even know yet. Right? That's where the more power thing comes in. Right? The more responsibility you give him, the higher up on the totem pole he goes, you get to see more of him in what he has, but he is indicative of the trend that's been going on for a decade with NFL coaches. And some of the quotes from Sean Payton even point out that he has embraced this, right? And that's part of the reason why Davis Webb was with the Denver Broncos in the first place. So he's part of a fascinating trend. And you always wonder when a trend's going to go the other way. Is there going to be a critical mass here of too many young head coaches and teams will decide to go the other way? And maybe you've seen, the Broncos went with Sean Payton. The Raiders went with Pete Carroll to obviously very different results. But you almost wonder if it's going to turn the other way and teams are going to be like, wait a minute. I don't think it's right now because you have Mike McDonald, a very young coach that's leading the Seahawks into the Super Bowl. But teams want to get younger with their coaching staffs because it's the way it's going, but because they possess this skills to stay on the cutting edge and, again, to communicate. And part of what's behind people wanting Davis Webb to take more control over the offense and to call plays is his relationship with Bo Nix. Right? It's almost like good cop, bad cop. It's what goes on sometimes on the Broncos sidelines, right? You see it. Sean Payton and Bo Nix get into it a little bit. And then Bo Nix goes and sits on the bench next to Davis Webb, and they're kind of going through it all. And I got to imagine it's a very positive experience for Bo Nix. So part of it is, does Davis Webb have a little bit better, not to say that Sean Payton doesn't have a good relationship with Bo Nix, but is he limited in how good that relationship can be with all the other stuff that Sean Payton has to do? Davis Webb's the good cop. He's the fun uncle. And sometimes that can be dangerous, Nathaniel Hackett, if you give him full control of the operation. But with Davis Webb just calling plays under the watchful eye of Sean Payton, perhaps you see the combination of the two, his relationship with Bo Nix, plus learning under Sean Payton and having guidance from Sean Payton could really make for a dynamite combination that really unlocks the potential of this Broncos offense. So Davis Webb is unique in a way because his rise has been even faster than some of these other coaches, but it is part and parcel with what is going on in the NFL. Better communicators that create better relationships with players who are closer to their age. And again, to be able to stay up on trends and be able to keep an offense on the cutting edge and even pushing the envelope if necessary. So regardless of whether him calling plays is where you're really going to see it, but even him getting elevated to offensive coordinator, he's going to be more noticeable. He's going to have, I think at the very least, he's going to have a louder voice in the room. And we'll see if his star keeps rising because he already got interviewed for 2 different head coaching jobs. Maybe part of the reason why Davis Webb needs play calling duties is because He's not long for the Denver Broncos. At some point, he's going to go and take another job somewhere. So you want to maximize what you have in Davis Webb. But it's going to be interesting to see how he fares in this new role, even if he doesn't get all the responsibility that I and others think that he should be getting. Take your thoughts at 719-247-1313. Coming up next, why the biggest story of the Olympics in Italy just got bigger. The Winter Olympics are coming up. Opening ceremonies on Friday. And the biggest story of these games was going to be Lindsey Vonn. At 41 years old, coming out of retirement or semi-retirement. I don't know if she has to like turn in papers like you do in the NFL. But we thought Lindsey Vonn was done. And she decided that she was going to make a comeback, and she won a downhill title a couple months back. And it's all systems go for the comeback tours of all comeback tours. This isn't Michael Jordan with the Wizards. This might be Michael Jordan with when he came back the first time with the Bulls. Right? Like Lindsey Vonn is back and she won when she came back. But that comeback story, that biggest story of Italy, took a huge hit over the weekend as Lindsey Vonn crashed as she was competing again in her last tune-up before the Olympics. And here are the myriad of injuries that she sustained.
Last Friday in Crans-Montana in the last World Cup, I completely ruptured my ACL. I also have bone bruising, which is a common injury when you tear your ACL, plus meniscal damage, which we're not sure if that was pre-existing or from the crash.
Gutting. Absolutely gutting. You imagine how hard she has worked to get herself back ready to compete, and she wins. And she's one event away from being the story of Italy and an entire country cheering for her and all of this stuff. And then she suffers all of those injuries. And now that's gone. Right? Tore ACL. You follow sports. Patrick Mahomes tore his ACL. He was done for the season. That's it. No more Lindsey Vonn. Now you got to find a bigger story. Oh, no, wait. Lindsey Vonn continued.
We have been doing extensive therapy, been consulting with doctors, been in the gym, and today I went skiing. And considering how my knee feels, it feels stable. I feel strong. My knee is not swollen, and with the help of a knee brace, I am confident that I can compete on Sunday.
This is wild. What Lindsey Vonn is attempting to do, forget about her age. Her age is now, no one even cares. 41, 31, 21, it doesn't matter. She's going to compete in the Olympics with a torn ACL. This is for sports fans, this is unfathomable. ACL, you're done. That's it. Again, I brought up, Patrick Mahomes, but you could bring up any number of athletes. When they tear their ACL, that's it. That's all. Season over. We'll see you next year. But therein lies why Lindsey Vonn is going to do this. Because for her, there is no next season. There is only Italy. That is it. She's done after this. So what these other athletes can afford is to say, hey, I'm on a 5-year contract. I'll be back next year better than ever, and we'll give it another shot, as disappointed as they might be. For Lindsey Vonn, this is it. This is what makes the Olympics so unique and so special, is that these athletes grind for 4 years to have their one moment in the spotlight, to be able to compete among the world's best on the biggest stage. Think about if Sunday's Super Bowl was only held once every 4 years. I mean, the psychology behind this, like, I can't relate because I'm not committed to anything in my life the way that Lindsey Vonn is clearly committed to her craft. But the psychology to understand what these, and I've interviewed Olympic athletes, it's unlike any mindset that you get because they grind away doing all of this stuff really without a lot of fanfare just to have this one shot. And could you imagine being right at, pardon the pun, the finish line before you go to compete and you get hurt? So that mentality, not only can I, a normal person of no unique or exceptional talent, cannot relate, I don't even know that a lot of athletes outside of the Olympic movement can fully understand and grasp what Lindsey Vonn is doing here. She is going to attempt to compete in the Olympics with a torn ACL and a fresh one too. This isn't coming back, a couple months early. She's going to essentially miss no competition time in order to do this. And to me, just her doing it is unbelievable enough. I think the worst thing that any of us can do as the Olympics begin this weekend is to be like, well, if she doesn't medal, it's a failure. Are you kidding me? Lindsey Vonn completing a race is close to like winning a medal. Like in her own way, it kind of is. I mean, she's still going to be the biggest story. And whether she finishes 4th or 14th, we're all going to be watching and cheering her on. So in that way, not much has changed. But I don't recall ever seeing this. An athlete try to do this. And Lindsey Vonn's doing it at 41 years old because this is it for her. It's remarkable. 719-247-1313 if you want to get in here. I was speaking with my colleague Richard Randall about this earlier, and he and I are both pretty amped up for the Olympics. We enjoy the Olympics, and Richard wanted to give his thoughts on this. You and I were talking about this earlier, buddy. Just unbelievable, no? Oh, did I not have Richard? Oh, bummer. Maybe we could get to him next hour. Call back, Richard. But him and I were talking about this in the hallways here earlier, and it just never seen. Let's try this again. Richard, you there? Nope, still not. Dang it. Well, we'll get it. We'll get it figured out. I mean, we got a bunch of issues going on here, but I'll open it up if you have your thoughts. But this is, I don't think we've seen it, and it look, it's fresh. And look, I heard the news. I didn't know that she tore her ACL. Right? I know she got hurt, and I thought, well, she got hurt. She's obviously going to push forward. But she got hurt in this way, has all of these things that happened to her. And yet she's gonna press on. So again, I don't want to put any expectation level on it. I'm sure she's still, and I hear in her voice some nervousness about it because, like, she may not have a competitive life after this, but she has the rest of her life after this. And if she further injures herself or causes more damage, like, she may be affected for the rest of her life. So I do sense some nervousness in her voice, and who could blame her? But I also can sense how much she wants this. And man, I hope, if I set the bar relatively low, and it's a weird thing to say considering that she's competing on a torn ACL, that is an unbelievable accomplishment. She finishes a race, but even if I set her results at a pretty low bar, I'm ready for her to exceed those. I don't even know if it's possible. I'm not a doctor, but I've been following sports to know that I've never watched an athlete suffer this kind of injury and show up the next day and compete. It just doesn't happen. So I legitimately don't know what to expect, but I think it would be doing her a disservice to be like, oh, well, this is disappointing that she's not going to medal. I mean, come on. Just her being out there is amazing. And who knows? Who knows what she'll do? Back after this. Welcome in, hour 2 on this Tuesday. Appreciate you tuning in, and shouts to those of you watching the show, whether it be on Facebook, X, Instagram, or YouTube. If you follow either 740 KVOR or Extra Sports 1300 on those social media platforms, you can watch this show on a daily basis. And if you do, if I can ask you one more favor, and that's to like, subscribe, and if you want to drop a comment, that'd be the best thing you can do. And I'll get to it as we move through the course of the program. Of course, there's a more traditional way to interact, especially for those of you who are listening to the show, and that is to call or text in at 719-247-1313. Of course, coming up on Sunday is the Super Bowl, and you can hear that game on both 740 KVOR and Extra Sports 1300. But I have a question, and it's a question that I can only pose given the recent circumstances. It's been a while since the Denver Broncos have been on the cusp of playing in a Super Bowl, but did not get there. And my question is, does it affect your interest level in Sunday's game, believing or hoping that the Denver Broncos were going to be in this game? And I'll take your thoughts at 719-247-1313. One person that it is affecting his ability to enjoy the biggest week of the NFL season is Courtland Sutton, who told Guerrilla Sports that he's having kind of a tough time getting excited for the Super Bowl, considering that he believed his team was going to be in it. The quote, best of luck to both of those teams. Everyone knows the Broncos should have been in there, but it's all right. And this is being taken on social media as a slap in the face. How dare Courtland Sutton suggests that everyone knows the Broncos should have been in this game? Well, allow me to defend Courtland Sutton, because the Denver Broncos should be in this game. They should be. The 4th and 1, the Jared Stidham backwards pass. Egregious errors that if they are not made, we're talking about the Broncos playing in the Super Bowl. They should be in this game. But where I think people are misconstruing what Courtland Sutton is saying, and I get it, it sounds like he's being a sore loser. But I guess I'll put it this way. I would hope that Courtland Sutton, behind those comments, understands that while the Broncos should be in this game, they don't deserve to be in this game. And I think there's a difference. Because a team that makes the errors that the Denver Broncos did in the AFC Championship does not deserve to go. The New England Patriots were the better coached, more disciplined football team in the AFC Championship, and thus they deserved to win that football game, and they deserve to play in this game. But yes, the Broncos should have been, because they have built their entire identity this season around other teams, the teams they play being the ones that make the bad play calls, that make the bad decisions, that make the huge errors that cost them the game. That's what the Denver Broncos have been all season. And for them on the biggest stage of the year to not be that team, it just adds to the frustration. And you heard it in all the post-game comments from players and coaches alike. They have played a 17-game season and a playoff game far more often than not, being the team that would not make those mistakes that you would look back on a Monday and be like, what in the world were they thinking? What in the world were they doing? The Broncos were the beneficiary of teams making those decisions and making those mistakes all year long. And if they did it one more time, they would be playing in this game. It's like Nick Benito's comments where he said we're the better team. And I understand his sentiment, but you kind of weren't. You kind of weren't. Play calling, fourth down conversions, turnovers, those things play into who the better team is on a Sunday. And I feel like that those comments would be ammunition for those who maybe doubted the Denver Broncos going into the game and could say, well, to be fair, Nick, I didn't think you were better than Philadelphia. I didn't think you were better than the Buffalo Bills. But the Broncos wanted that credit for winning those football games. So while with what Cortland Sutton is saying, like, I think it goes right up to that line without necessarily crossing it. But I do understand that he's in a little bit dangerous territory here where it's going to feel like he's giving no credit to New England. And you know what? Maybe he's not. Maybe he is being a sore loser. Now that I'm thinking about it, you know what? The internet's reaction, I don't think is that far off base. But what he is saying is true. You can label him a sore loser. You could say that he's not giving any credit to New England, but also at the same time, you can agree with the fact that the Denver Broncos should be in this game. But they are not, because they were almost the opposite of what they had been throughout the entirety of this season. And if you can't play to your identity, if you can't do the thing that got you to that game, the AFC Championship, then you don't deserve to take it one step further. New England did. And look, New England was a team that many people call them the East Coast Denver Broncos because there are a lot of people poking holes in the resume of the New England Patriots. And they met up with their doppelganger from the western part of the United States, and they ended up being the more disciplined team. They ended up making the better decisions, were better coached, and their quarterback was more under control. So you can label Cortland Sutton how you see fit, but he's not lying. The Denver Broncos should have been in this game. And hopefully, if you're a Broncos fan, what you want is this team to internalize it and come back with so much intent that they're a burning desire to get back to rectify this mistake. If they believe that they were the better team, if they believe that they should have been in this game, then the only way they can prove it is by coming back next year and getting to the game. Or else it's just going to be more, well, you were fraudulent to begin with. And it was a small miracle that you're even in that game. And what I have to prove my point is that you came back the year after and you didn't sniff the AFC Championship. All of it, people are keeping receipts. It's the social media age. I'm sure the Broncos don't care right now, but down the line, people are going to bring up these videos and these clips and say, remember when the Denver Broncos felt like they were better than the New England Patriots? That they should have been in this game? And now look at them. But the question, the bigger question that I am posing here, as a Broncos fan, or if you're a Rams fan, will apply to you. Has it impact the fact that your team got to the doorstep and didn't walk through the doorway there? Is it tamping down your enthusiasm for Sunday's game? I would imagine it does. And I wouldn't blame you at all for it. But even beyond Rams fans and Broncos fans and Cortland Sutton, who believe that it shouldn't be Seattle and New England in this game, or that exact combination. For the people who don't have a dog in the fight, doesn't this Super Bowl week, I know we're sitting here on a Tuesday, so we'll see how it goes through the week. Doesn't it not, it doesn't feel like a lot of juice with this game? Doesn't feel as anticipated. And I'll take your thoughts on that. And I have a theory, if I'm correct, that the beginning of this week and just the last week as well as is supposed to, that's the reason why the NFL, to help ramp up the excitement, to get people to anticipate this game. I don't know that it's been that way. I don't think that this game has a lot of juice. That doesn't mean that people aren't going to watch. We're all going to watch. Come on now. Cortland Sutton's going to watch the game. George Payton was asked about this the other day. He's like, yeah, I'm going to watch because I love football. Yeah, we'll watch on Sunday, but the normal getting hyped for it, talking about it on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, what are you doing for all this kind of stuff? I don't know that there's as much of it, and maybe it's just where I'm located in the country because of the Broncos effect and the fact that they're not in it. But I have a theory, if this holds, if this is not just a Colorado thing, I have a theory, and you aren't going to like it. I think the Super Bowl, we're talking about 2 weeks here, 2 weeks of hype. That's a lot of hype. Having a villain is a great way to generate enthusiasm for the matchup, anticipation, hype, to have a villain. And I'd be saying this if it were, 10, 15 years ago, and we were in the midst of the New England Patriot dynasty. The Patriots were there was an emotional attachment to that team, even if it was a negative emotion. The anticipation would be, I can't wait for those cheaters to get beat on Sunday. And I say this through all sports. We like the idea that there's parity, but I don't think we like it as much as we think we do. Like, oh, LeBron and Golden State again in the NBA, right? Oh, Jordan's Bulls again. We say that. But would you really rather them be out? Again, taking away your personal rooting interest. If your team has a chance to go and they don't make it like the Denver Broncos, I get it. But I'm saying from, a somewhat objective observer, just somebody that's like, my team wasn't really in the mix for this. It's just as a football fan or a sports fan, you want the stars. You do. You want the villain. And last year, you had a villain. And you had greatness. You had a great team that was also the villain, just like the Patriots were before Kansas City, just like, LeBron has been in the NBA, or maybe you're on the other side and you're rooting for LeBron against the Golden State Warriors. None of this means that Sunday's not going to be a great game. It could be. And I think the potential of New England winning and what that means for Drake May to catapult him into stardom, I think that is something that would be good for, I think, the NFL moving forward, that they have another star in Drake May, another player that you know. So this is not, all I'm talking about is the week leading up. Day of the game, the actual game, I think that there's always a healthy amount of anticipation, a good amount, because it's Super Bowl Sunday. It's a national holiday. And this game on Sunday could be a good one. And we'll enjoy it if it is. But with these 2 weeks, I think they're better. And I don't know that the Denver Broncos replacing New England would actually move that around here. It would, but I don't know that nationally it would move the needle much. I don't know that swapping, like, Denver is far more compelling than New England. Maybe if you got Sean Payton with a couple of lattes, maybe he could spice up the week. But I just think, especially in the NFL world, because for most of my life and in many of your lives, it's been New England and Kansas City. Familiarity, you know them, you hate them, but you understand that that you're going to see greatness on Super Bowl Sunday. You don't have that guarantee this time around because Seattle and especially New England, they just kind of got here. Doesn't mean there aren't interesting storylines, and it doesn't mean that Sunday can't be a great day of football. But the NFL banks on this thing getting hyped up for 2 weeks and people getting excited for 2 weeks straight, And I just don't know that I feel it. And maybe it's just because of the geographic region that I am in. But I'd be curious your thoughts and your excitement, anticipation, however you want to describe it, that level going into Sunday's game. And then your thoughts on Cortland Sutton's comments as well. Very much welcome at 719-247-1313. More after this on 740 KVOR and Extra Sports 1300. Cortland Sutton says it should have been us. Do you agree that the Denver Broncos should have been in this game, and the fact that they're not in this game, or the fact that it's the Patriots and Seahawks, is that tempering your enthusiasm for the biggest event on the sports calendar? Your thoughts at 719-247-1313. This is from Albert. Says, old saying, if wishes and nuts were candy, and if wishes and butts, thank you. Did you have the update to your iPhone as well? My iPhone, I can't spell. It's auto-correcting everything that I'm doing, and it's auto-correcting everything wrong. Let me try that again. Old saying, if wishes and butts were candy and nuts, then everyone would have a Merry Christmas. Broncos lost, less hype because of the deflating air around here, but I, along with most everyone else, will end up watching the game on Sunday. And that's the point I'm making. All I am talking about is the anticipation level, right? Like on this radio station, other than the hours that I'm on or the hours that we have, like the Frank Serratori show or a Nuggets game or an Avalanche game, it's all going to be from Radio Row, Dan Patrick doing his thing and Jim Rome and all of these guys. And part of it is about hyping up the game. Everyone's going to be giving their predictions and all that kind of stuff. And I think that, for a variety of reasons, has taken a little bit of a hit with this matchup. But I'm with you, Albert. I'm watching. I've talked to my boys. We're locked in. I'm getting the spread and we're watching the game. There's a difference, I think, between the 2 weeks leading up to and the day of and the game itself. We're going to watch. We're going to watch, and we're going to hope it's a great game. But the NFL kind of banks on you getting excited about this for 2 weeks. And I don't know that this matchup, for whatever reason, is, getting that out of people. Brett says, maybe Cortland Sutton should have caught 3 balls that he dropped or did not adjust properly to in the Patriot game. Yeah, Cortland Sutton had a pretty big drop in that game, didn't he? But I'm sure if you confronted him about that, he would say he should have caught that. So I think he would agree with you. I think probably the tone that you're saying that he would not like, but I think he would agree with your sentiment that he should have caught that pass. This from the 719. Hi, Ryan. Broncos were down their starting quarterback, their number 1 running back, and 2 of their wide receivers from an already thin core. With Nix and Dobbins, they are the better team. Without not, my interest in the Super Bowl went from high to low when the Broncos lost. My ideal result would be a 0-0 tie after quintuple overtime. Oh, come on now. Nobody wants that. But that brings up another question. Your rooting interest. If you get beyond, if you're one that says, you know what, I'm going to watch the game. It's football. It's the Super Bowl. Come on, I'm going to watch it. Are you pulling for Seattle? Are you pulling for Seattle, or are you saying, hey, if the Broncos are going to lose to a team, that team better darn well win the Super Bowl? But I think there's a difference to your text. I think there's a difference between, who the better team was and who should have been in the game, or it made it to the Super Bowl, like with the mistakes that the Broncos made. And yeah, one was on Jared Stidham, but one was on Sean Payton. And the one on Sean Payton started all of this. was the first domino to fall in a series of dominoes that led to the Broncos losing that game. So, okay, the Jared Stidham turnover, certainly, and that guy shouldn't have been in that position, right? Because you hope Bo Nix didn't break his ankle and all that. But, I mean, to Brett's point, Courtland Sutton dropped a pass. Von Miller says that he would have gotten to Drake May on the quarterback bootleg. So Jonah Ellis, at least in Von Miller's mind, should have been able to make a play there to give the Broncos a chance to win. Like, I think on paper, with the injuries, to your point, yes, you could say that the Patriots were the better team going in, and they were the better team because they were more well-coached and they made more plays. But I do think that Courtland Sutton is right when he said, if you watch that game, it's hard to be like, no, the Broncos shouldn't have been in that. Their mistakes were so egregious that you're like, I think you would agree with Courtland Sutton's sentiment. The problem is Courtland Sutton probably shouldn't be saying this because it makes him a target and it makes him seem like a sore loser. Donnie says the Ravens should be in this game. Until they are, I don't get hyped. There's no juice this year for me because of the halftime show. I'm not looking forward to that. To not get into a different lane here on the halftime thing. I was just talking about this with a colleague of mine today. I gotta say, like the LA Super Bowl when it was Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and Eminem, that might have been the jumping of the shark. I may not actually fully enjoy another halftime show again because I'll always have it in my mind, well, I don't see Eminem. Even Kendrick Lamar was a part of that halftime show in LA, and I didn't enjoy his halftime show last year nearly as much as that. I'm like, when is Eminem coming out? Where's Dr. Dre? Where's Snoop Dogg? I want them in every halftime show. I do like some of Bad Bunny's music. I do like a few of his songs. So I think it'll certainly be on, and I'll be nodding my head a little bit to some of his songs, but I don't know that the halftime show after that one in LA. But that's tough because the nostalgia, right? Like when Prince performed, like he had an unfair advantage. He had Mother Nature on his side and that one, but it's like nostalgia. And maybe that's what the Super Bowl halftime show should be. They think it should be the artists that are hip and now, and there's no doubt about Bad Bunny's a major star. But maybe that nostalgia is actually what makes these halftime shows great, at least for me. Because I used to be like, oh, here comes another, old. And I like The Who's music, but like when The Who performed, I was like, okay, it's The Who, it's an old band, whatever. And then the LA Super Bowl came around, and I'm like, oh my God, I have become the very that I only want the performers that aren't now and are from my day. I don't know. There's a good argument there. Is the best way to go about it with the Super Bowl halftime show to have the biggest artists in the world now, or is it to go back? Regardless of the genre of music, and I know that's going to certainly impact people's eagerness to watch. But just like if you're going to do a rap performance, like make it Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and Eminem. If you're going to make it rock, maybe like I know a lot of people wanted Metallica, given their ties to that area. I think what the halftime show is aimed at younger audiences and more casual audiences. I think that's the main purpose. So that's why they do, Kendrick and Bad Bunny. They want to grow the popularity of the game and the game itself and the sport. I want the nostalgia. That's why I've realized. And there's no nostalgia for me watching Bad Bunny, even though, like I said, I like a few of his songs, and I hear that he is a phenomenal performer. But like people put the Bruno Mars halftime show up among the best. I'm like, I mean, I know he's supremely talented. He's coming to the Air Force Academy. Everyone's going crazy. I'm like, not my thing. Not that his music isn't my taste in music, but I like the nostalgia. Let's. I gotta take a break. A few more texts, and I'll get to those. Your anticipation level for the Super Bowl, is it diminished because of the matchup we have, or is it because the Broncos were one step away from being one of these two teams? 719-247-1313. Fellas, Valentine's Day, basically the 2-minute drill of romance. And Louisa Graff has the perfect game plan. We're giving away a Vermeil Pave lab-grown diamond heart pendant worth $299. You can enter to win it right now at extrasports1300.com or kvor.com before Sunday. That's when the contest closes up. Couple more texts here on the anticipation level for the Super Bowl, and I guess all that comes along with it is the halftime show has also become a topic over the last few minutes. Let's go back to the the text line at 719-247-1313. Tucker says, hell no, they had a chance and failed, talking about the Denver Broncos. So he does not agree with Cortland Sutton's sentiment that the Broncos should have been in this game. And then says he's going to watch on Sunday. And I will too. I will be. And again, I'm just talking about the anticipation level. If we get a great game on Sunday, that's what matters. Okay, what would be the worst is if we're talking about how people aren't excited for this game and then they tune in to watch because it's the Super Bowl and we all watch and then it's a stomping, then it's going to be really bad. I will say that depends on the New England Patriots. Because I don't see a scenario in which New England blows out Seattle. But I can see a scenario in which Seattle blows out New England. So if New England's on their game and they play well, maybe they win, maybe they don't, but we get a good game. And that's ultimately, in the end, what I want. This from the 719, Bad Bunny is going to be in a dress. No thanks. Do we know that? Do we know that he's going to be? And then this is a text from the 719. You can watch halftime show on a different network, the Turning Point USA one. It's Kid Rock and some other performers. Here's the thing, though. I saw those perform. I don't like any of them. So here's what I have decided. Okay, two things I have decided when it comes to me and the Super Bowl halftime show. One is that I am incredibly picky. Incredibly picky. The NFL rolls out these global superstars that have 8 songs in the top 20 in the country right now. And I'm like, nah, not for me. So I am incredibly picky. Now, I can appreciate the performances. I can appreciate the music. But I've realized that my tastes are very narrow. And neither Super Bowl halftime show really gets at my taste when it comes to Super Bowl halftime shows or music in general. Again, I could say the same thing for Kid Rock that I could say with Bad Bunny. I like a couple of his songs, but yeah, not somebody that I'm eagerly awaiting them performing. But therein lies the second realization, which is if you are like me and you are putting all of these qualifiers on, like, I like this kind of music, I don't want them to do this kind of music, and I don't want them to do anybody now, I want the feeling of nostalgia, I think you have to realize that the Super Bowl halftime show is not for you. That you're not the target demographic. And I have now realized this. That I am not the target demographic of the Super Bowl halftime show. But I will say that I'm the target demo of like Green Day. Me and my household very much looking forward to the pregame, isn't that when Green Day is performing, is before the game? That performance, I'm in on. So I say all this, and I am realizing that I'm very difficult to please when it comes to musical acts performing at sporting events. And I've also realized that the NFL is not really doing this for me, but every once in a while they do. The stars do align, that they get the general public, they get the youths of America and the world, for that matter, because this is a global broadcast. And then they get me. And I know for a fact that whenever that happens, after that LA Super Bowl, Roger Goodell went into the NFL offices in New York and said, guys, we got Ryan this year. We got him. We don't always get him. We got him when Prince performed. We got him with U2 back in 2001. Or was it 2002? You know, it's tricky because it's played so soon into the year, but you remember when U2 performed. We got him then, we got him, and we got him again. It's a big win, people. Kudos. And then bonuses were handed out throughout the NFL offices. When it comes to pop culture, right now, I have many different people urging me to watch particular shows, 3-4 different shows. And I tell them all no. Why? Because I have very particular. Okay. Is this show that you're pitching me, is this a Seinfeld rerun? No. Is it an Office rerun? No. Is it I Think You Should Leave? No. Then I'm not watching it. As you could tell, outside of this, huge, really fun guy to be around with my very narrow tastes. From the 719, football is football. Gotta love it. Looking for a great game, hopefully, but have a sneaky suspicion it's going to be a blowout, Seattle winning. Yeah, I think that those are the three. There are three possible outcomes for Sunday. Patriots win close, Seattle wins close, or Seattle wins by a blowout. And my first blush, and you heard me, I said going into the AFC Championship, I think the far two superior teams are on the other side of the bracket. Whether it's LA or Seattle, I think both of them are much better than Denver and New England. But here's the thing about the Super Bowl. It's kind of its own thing. It's its own organism. Okay, did many people expect Seattle to blow out Denver in that Super Bowl? Denver had one of the most ridiculous offenses that we've ever seen. And sure, we were debating Peyton Manning and the Broncos offense against the Legion of Boom, but we thought it would end up being a close game, a war of attrition, and it just turned into the Seahawks bludgeoning the Denver Broncos. So if this game were played immediately after, the week after, and if this were played, under normal circumstances, without all the fanfare and all these distractions and it being its standalone and halftime is 30 minutes long and all this kind of stuff, I'd be saying, yeah, Seattle's going to blow out New England. But it's really about the team that's better equipped to handle all that comes along with playing in a Super Bowl, in addition to the matchup itself, right? Tampa Bay and Philadelphia both ran roughshod over the Kansas City Chiefs. Were they infinitely better than Kansas City those years? No, but their pass rush went exactly at the thing that Kansas City didn't do well those seasons, which is protect Patrick Mahomes. So it's kind of its own thing. If I were just looking at this matchup, I'm with you. I feel like Seattle might run away with this thing, but it's different. And Mike Vrabel's well-versed in all the ins and outs of Super Bowl week, so maybe he can get his team to be a little bit better prepared for this. This from the 719, the Broncos shouldn't have even been in the AFC Championship game, let alone the Super Bowl. So another dissenting opinion to Cortland Sutton, who says that everybody, I think he said everybody knows. Let me double check that. Everyone knows. So Cortland Sutton, I'm here to tell you, you are wrong. Everyone doesn't, quote unquote, know that you should be in the game. But I agree that the Broncos should have been. This from Albert. What's the show you will watch, Albert? Real Big Fish isn't going to open for Social Distortion at a Super Bowl halftime. Yeah, I feel like, again, maybe, just maybe. I don't know about you, Albert. Maybe we're not the target demographics. But look, I'll say this. I remember far more Super Bowl games than I do halftime shows. Right? I remember moments from the game more than moments from the Super Bowl halftime show. There are some exceptions, right? Prince, Purple Rain, the list of the victims of 9/11 scrolling behind you too. That one with Justin Timberlake. I do remember those things. So anyway, I am pinch hitting tonight for Jay Ritchie on the Air Force Hockey Coaches Show with Frank Saratori. So I got to head up there. Appreciate your patronage. Let's do it again tomorrow at 3. Shall we? Thank you.